Is Tokyo safe? Yes and no. Tokyo is definitely a safe city to live in terms of traditional crimes such as physical assault and theft. However, there are specifically two types of crimes that you have to look out for when you live or visit in Tokyo. Touts, or kyakuhiki in Japanese, are everywhere in Tokyo or any major Japanese city. There are several different kinds of kyakuhikis in Tokyo. The most common kinds are kyakuhiki for bars, clubs, and karaoke shops, and kyakuhiki for retail stores. They're often not too aggressive or persistent, but they can be sometimes. The worst case I've ever encountered was this guy physically grabbed my arm and tried to pull me into his clothing store in Harajuku, but I would say it's a rare case and you don't have to worry too much about that. They usually approach you promising a special discount and try to ask how much your budget is. They usually work for several different businesses and they are connected by radio, and they'll check availability and walk you to whatever business they are working for. I would not say they are all trying to rip you off, and some of the guys genuinely give you decent discounts sometimes. However, you cannot forget that popular bars and restaurants don't need their touts walking around pulling customers into their businesses in the first place, and they often work for business with less popularity. So I would strongly suggest not to follow them at all, because I've heard of horror stories where people get ripped off a lot of money. But at the end of the day, it's really up to you whether you take the risk or not. If you are a person who absolutely decide not to follow them, it's the best practice not to engage and simply walk past them. It sounds a little bit harsh, but they talk to hundreds and thousands of people systematically, and if you somehow engage in the conversation, they would think you are interested. Before I came to Tokyo, I only lived in small places and it was hard to just bluntly ignore someone, but you'll get used to it eventually. Also, if you like this kind of content, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It would help us tremendously. Thanks. This one is a little bit more serious than the first one. Stalking is a huge problem everywhere, and in Japan, it's a big social problem here as well. Especially with the rise of social media, very personal and private information has become more accessible, and some people take advantage of that. Also, in Japanese society, because of how pursuing someone romantically in secrecy is often portrayed comically in mainstream media such as anime and J-drama shows, I personally think that stalking is generally taken lightly as a crime in Japan. As preventative measures, you want to keep a few things in mind. First thing is that Tokyo is a public transport oriented city, meaning that you're more likely to be at the exact same spot at the same time very frequently, which means it's significantly easier for a stalker to identify where you reside. Try to ride a different train car each time or take a slightly different route back home, and try not to get into the same exact routine. Also in Japan, hanging clothes outside is very normal, and sometimes your clothes get stolen, or often stalkers use them to identify where you live. As a preventative measure, hanging dummy clothes that are typically worn by the opposite sex to make it less obvious who lives in that apartment unit is highly recommended. After all guys, Tokyo is one of the safest major cities in the whole entire world, but it can even be safer with the knowledge of what to avoid and what to be careful for. Also, if there's anything that I missed or you have something to add, please feel free to share your knowledge in the comment section as well. Alright, thanks for watching!